What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Khamzat Chimaev shuts down rumor. The MMA world continues to wait and see when Khamzat Chimaev will return to the octagon and against who. But despite rumors and reports to the contrary, Boers says he could fight in the US if needed. In recent months, there's been extensive talk and speculation regarding whether Chimaev can get a visa to enter the States. Earlier this year, it was reported that the middleweight would have issues receiving a visa on account of his relationship with Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov, who has been sanctioned by the US due to allegations of human rights violations. Further, since Chimaev hasn't fought in the US since September 2022, it's heightened speculation about him having visa issues. Well, more recently, Chimaev spoke with Aslanbek Badayev, and the undefeated fighter dismissed the rumor. Of course, the UFC can help with any visa issue they can. They did this last time. They got me the visa when they wanted it. Everyone says I was denied a visa. So far, we have not applied for a visa. I was told to wait and fight in Arab countries for now, and I'm waiting. As everyone remembers, recently at UFC 300, I was offered a fight to perform in Las Vegas. The main event of the evening, it was against Leon Edwards. Then, they could get me a visa, so I could fight there when needed. When needed, I'll get one. Business is working, one might say. And not surprisingly, Chimaev's comments drew a variety of reactions. Whether it was questioning if the UFC could actually get Boers in the US to compete, or if fighting exclusively in the Middle East is good for his career. I was told to wait and fight in Arab countries for now. Makes sense that the UFC keeps him for the cards in the Middle East because he's a massive star there. But if he doesn't have visa problems, the UFC should let him fight in Las Vegas or Madison Square Garden at least once a year. Because to become a superstar, you need to be fighting in America. If you're not going to fight in America, you're not going to be a champion. Simple as that. That's not good business. Translation: wait until Trump is president. But what do you think? Is there something fishy with this narrative? Or is the UFC just saving Chimaev for their cards in Abu Dhabi and Saudi Arabia? Okay, up next, Tom Aspinall sends a warning to Alex Pereira. Tom Aspinall has demonstrated plenty of times now that he's not to be trifled with on the feet. Just ask Sergey Pavlovich. But the talented and agile heavyweight recently claimed that if he does end up fighting Alex Pereira, he'll be looking to take Poatan down immediately. If you're a big MMA fan, you know that Pereira has made it clear several times now that he wants to fight for the UFC's heavyweight crown. But since the UFC is committed to having John Jones defend his title against former champion Stipe Miocic, there's also been a lot of talk about Pereira possibly fighting Aspinall. Well, ahead of Aspinall's upcoming fight with Curtis Blaydes at UFC 304, the interim champ spoke with Jamal Nayaz. Aspinall was, of course, asked about the possibility of fighting Pereira and what he'd look to do against the light heavyweight king.
Well, the bell would go and I'd run across, full blast and rugby tackling is what I'd do.
Go straight for the takedown?
First 10 seconds of the fight, yeah.
Seriously?
Well, I've got one very reliable takedown that I do. If you watch my fight with Arlovski, did it there.
Spear.
The spear, yeah. It's undefeated in training. The problem is when you do it, you nearly knock yourself out. So I don't do it that much because you just run into a full blast with your head. So I save that for rare moments, but that's the exact takedown I do. Full blast, mate. 40-yard dash straight across, head in the middle.
There you have it. Now, is it possible that Aspinall is just saying this and could look to test Poatan on the feet? Maybe. But given he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and that a lot of folks have questioned if Pereira's ground game has truly been vetted, it makes sense. After all, in Pereira, we're talking about one of the hardest punchers to ever walk this planet. Ian Garry calls out Shavkat Rakhmonov. Ian Machado Garry would be one of the more polarizing fighters in the UFC's welterweight division right now. But not even his biggest detractors can accuse Garry of trying to cherry-pick easy fights. Case in point, the Irish fighter continues to drive hard for a scrap with Shavkat Rakhmonov. Following Garry's decision win over Michael Venom Page at UFC 303 last month, he's been taking some heat for not backing up all the talk he offered leading up to the fight. Garry had insisted he was going to outclass Page, but that didn't happen. Well, all that aside, immediately after Garry's win, he raised eyebrows by calling out Rakhmonov. Then, while appearing on the MMA Hour a few days later, he doubled down on the challenge.
I've trained with Shavkat. I've nothing but respect for Shavkat and everything that he's done. I mean, for someone to be 18-0 and have 18 finishes, it's pretty remarkable. What I don't want is for him to fight anyone else and lose that O. I want to be the guy that if someone's going to take it, let it be me. That's the challenge that I see. And when I look at Shavkat, he's by far the most dangerous guy in the entire division at the moment, other than obviously respect to the champion. But he's the most feared at the moment. 18-0, 18 finishes. We've not seen anyone really cause much trouble. Jeff Neal and him had a great fight back in December or beforehand. But anyway, the point is, That's the opponent I want to look towards.
Well, here we are a few weeks later, and Garry is still campaigning for the Rakhmonov scrap. Shavkat Rakhmonov responded to Ian Garry's call-out by writing on Twitter saying 100% finish rate versus 53% finish rate. It won't even be close if it happens. So it'll be fascinating to see if the UFC goes this route. Of course, it would be a must-see fight, as it features two of the promotion's fastest rising stars. Okay, now let's look at Michael Venom Page wants Kamaru Usman fight. Although Michael Page came up short in his latest bout, the highlight reel striker certainly isn't looking for a layup fight. Case in point, Venom has called for a scrap with one of this generation's top welterweights, Kamaru Usman. Page is coming off a decision loss to Ian Garry last month, which went down at UFC 303. Similar to what went down with the lead-up to Page's Octagon debut against Kevin Holland, the fight failed to deliver the fireworks almost everyone was expecting. So, having gone 1-1 so far in the UFC, in fights that didn't leave the masses buzzing, one couldn't really fault Page if he targeted an easy fight next. But while speaking to Michael Bisping recently, the Bellator veteran relayed he wants to battle Usman next.
I would still go for someone like a Usman. He's number one ranked. And my thing is, the only reason I keep saying this as well is because he doesn't seem to be in line for a fight. So I'm not sure what he's doing. I don't really see anybody calling him out, or there's even like a talk of anything happening with him. I don't know if he's staying in the division, but if he is going to be staying in the division, then, why not? If he's happy to take the fight, then why not?
How about that? Go big or go home, right? And when you consider Page is now 37, if he does want to leap into the title shot mix, a win over Usman would certainly do that. With that said, getting past one of the most complete fighters on the UFC roster won't be easy. Up next, MMA Community roasts Cody Garbrandt for new tattoo. Cody Garbrandt is probably used to taking some verbal jabs online when he's lost fights. But this time around, No Love is taking some lumps on account of a new tattoo. Now, as you likely know, Garbrandt already has a gazillion tattoos. But when images recently surfaced of the former bantamweight champ with a sword tattoo above and below his right eye, the internet wasn't kind. Here were some of the reactions. Bro joined his teammate Darren Elkins on the list of trash tattoos with this one. LMFAO, laughing my effing ass off. God, he's so washed. Genuinely one of the worst tats I've seen. One of the biggest fall-offs from any UFC champ. Why would he do that? Yikes, dude. Buddy looks like a pirate. CTE incoming. Did he lose a bet or something? And that's why they always tell you to never read the comments. If you need a refresher, Garbrandt is coming off a submission loss to Davison Figueiredo at UFC 300, after No Love won back-to-back fights against Brian Kelleher and Trevin Jones. UFC Fight Updates. Let's take a look at a couple of fight announcements for the UFC's upcoming schedule. UFC 306 is going down in honor of Mexican Independence Day on September 14th, and it will feature the rising American-Mexican fighter Raul Rosas Jr. in action. Recently, Team Iridium announced that Rosas Jr. will take on Mongolian's Orichi Lang at the event, which is a very solid addition to the card. Will Orichi Lang hand the 19-year-old another loss and halt his hype train again? And Home of Fight recently reported that UFC 304 has undergone a late change, as Kellen Loughran will fight Jake Hadley and not Ramon Taveras. So Ireland's Loughran has gone from being scheduled to fight an American in Taveras to facing an English fighter in Hadley in Manchester. So he may not have the same level of support he was originally expecting. Okay, now let's take a look at MMA Community reacts to Paddy Pimblett insane body transformation. Fans and critics have piled on Paddy Pimblett in the past for ballooning way up in weight in between fights, but it certainly looks like weight isn't going to be an issue for the Scouser fighter as he prepares to battle at UFC 304. Paddy the Baddy is scheduled to fight Bobby Green at the July 27th event, and what will be Paddy's sixth fight in the promotion. Since Pimblett arrived in the UFC, he's generated extensive buzz, not only because of his brash personality and aggressive fighting style, but because Paddy has packed on the pounds and then some when he hasn't been training for a fight. Well, as UFC 304 nears, a picture of an absolutely shredded Pimblett was recently posted on Instagram. The pic prompted plenty of shock and awe, to say the least. Paddy the Baddy hasn't touched a carb in weeks by the looks of it. I swear, this guy has a switch he can turn off and on whenever he chooses. Unreal. Never seen him in such good shape. Go on, Pad. Damn, looks like USADA's gone for good, eh? Paddy's weight loss needs to be studied. Man, I need Paddy's coach in the worst way. His transformation from then to now, incredible. Now, it should be noted that Pimblett's weight has not really been a persistent issue when he's booked for a fight. So the fact he is looking ridiculously cut ahead of UFC 304 shouldn't be too shocking, right? Sean Strickland fires back at Khamzat for his comments. Khamzat claims that he beat Strickland up during their sparring session. which Strickland took to Instagram to reply by writing, "I'm glad he found time to speak this BS. I thought he was too busy running crypto scams and hiding from warlords, LMAO. Top comments. McGregor's going to be forced to sell his portion of BKFC if Coke tweeting his fighters becomes a regular occurrence. Bro, Jake is way bigger. The size difference looked crazy in the ring, LMAO. The size difference was insane. Jake had 30 to 40 pounds over Perry. Why he want Pereira? He keeps saying he's going to be a champion in boxing, but refuses to fight a boxer. Dude's a clown." Again, as usual, Jake Paul on steroids, LMAO, and fighting older fighters and heavy as F. People are falling for this stuff. Fights MMA fighters and acts like that is boxing cred. Give him a boxer near his weight and rank, and then I'll pay him his dues.